sometime in June or July, I imagine there are going to be calls for Hendricks said. If he goes out there and continues, I was actually embarrassed to, I didn't even really put his full line on there. I just know he gave up like 8 runs.
Like I was embarrassed to type it out in front of my own
fingers were
eyes.
cramping.
1-2. Swinging a drive toward right center. Back goes Robert. Back near the stands. That ball is gone. A game-winning home run for Chris Morel. Can you believe it? Listen to this crowd.
Brotherly Cubs podcast. I'm your little brother, Zach.
And I'm your big brother, John.
We are your brothers who love everything Cubs baseball. If you enjoy talking about the Cubs, then hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications, and join us every week as we dive into the power, the speed, and the best team in the National League.
We like to start off each podcast with a playful question for all 76 of our subscribers.
Encourage you to put your answer in the comments, please.
Today, Zach, I ask you, if the Cubs had their own theme park ride, what would it be called? And what would the ride experience be like?
So there's like a classic trope of a roller coaster called, I think it's called Tilt-A-Whirl, but people call it Tilt-A-Hurl and everyone throws up. It's like a classic 90s trope. That's what my answer is going to be, but I think it is a ride at Six Flags called Goliath, where there's a big buildup, there's a large drop, and then some people around one of the turns where you're pulling all kinds of G's. Sometimes you black out, but then the rest of the ride is really fun. And so I would say we're in the portion of the season where there's been a really fun buildup, there's been a drop, and then we sort of black out as we're turning. And I'm hoping that the rest of the season is the rest of Goliath, which is a really fun ride. What about you?
This is good to know because I'm going to Magic Mountain tomorrow.
But you should go on it.
Yeah, I want to black out. Yeah. So when I read this question ahead of time, I was thinking about just creating my own ride. So what would it be called? I would call it the letdown. It's like you kind of build up, you're going up, you're going up, you're going up, and then you're going down, and it's exciting, and you run into like a fire breathing dragon, and it spits fire out at you with the pyrotechnics and everything, and that dragon represents the Dodgers. We dodged the fire there, and then we're turning a corner, and then we face the Padres, and it's just this dad that's like shaking his finger at you like this, and then then you stop, and you're like, crap, we got in trouble by the Padre. So I was just kind of thinking symbolically, what have we ran into earlier on in the season? We've kind of, I call it the letdown because you get all the way up there and it's exciting, and then you just it just seems like the season's kind of fallen flat with all these injuries, and we've been let down, and so.
Yeah.
But I really am looking forward to Goliath now.
It's fun. Just check those lines, because if it's a weekday, hopefully it's not too bad. So speaking of injuries, the Cubs are now 26-22. They've taken some losses here recently. We've updated a lot on the injury section. Every time we talk about injuries, there's like a ton to talk about. Luis Vasquez was called up to play infield. Dansby Swanson was activated. Nico Horner supposedly is back in. I haven't seen the lineup card for today's game yet at the time recording. And PCA and Mastroboni were sent down to Iowa. Some good news is that Smiley will be in a game this afternoon, this Tuesday evening at time of recording, and Jordan Wicks will throw either a live BP or just a bullpen session to get his pitch count up, and then we'll throw a rehab, get into a rehab start this weekend, possibly with Iowa or really anywhere. It doesn't matter. I don't know if he'll go 1 or 2 outings. It'll be interesting. Anyone you're excited for to get back from injury?
Probably Jordan Wicks.
Yeah.
I mean, I never thought I'd say I'm looking forward to Smiley coming back. But at this point, you'll take what you can get. So you'd mentioned, or I'm not sure if you mentioned the probables, right, for the Brave series, but we have Charlie Morton, Javier Assad, right, Max Fried, and Justin Steele, and then we got that TBD game.
Right.
So getting Smiley, back would be big, I think, or Wicks, because either one represents a possible replacement for Kyle Hendricks, which a lot of people are speculating that this might be the end of his, at least Cubs career. But
yeah, I mean, especially as Jordan Wicks does come back, I wonder if they'll do something like get his pitch count up to 60 this weekend, Jordan Wicks, and then have him come back off the injured list, but in 5 days after. And I know it looks like the Cubs are skipping Kyle Hendricks this series, as he would have been pitching on Thursday. So either he'll open, or they'll do a combo of maybe Wisniewski and Brown, and then Kyle Hendricks will take on a more favorable series, which I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I'm assuming, the next outing should be someone way easier than the Braves, I would hope.
It's the Cardinals. So, yeah, we're at St. Louis.
They still have a good offense. It's something he needs to do. They could skip him for a whole week and put him against the Brewers, but at some point, maybe you have him start against the Cardinals, and then maybe Jordan Wicks comes back against the Brewers, and then you skip Hendricks' final start and just have him go in the bullpen. I guess it'll depend on how he does against the Cardinals, if that's where he pitches. I was sketching out some of the names in the bullpen to come back, because it looks like there's like 7 guys on the injured list, which is just ridiculous, honestly. And it appears that, you're going to always have at least 1 or 2 guys low leverage. It seems like they've done that throughout the season. And I think if Wicks comes back and Hendricks doesn't show that he's going to eat a lot of innings, I think he might just be put into completely low leverage for now, until they figure him out again, which is really unfortunate. But they don't want to start him against the Braves. They don't want to start him in the normal cadence of the season. So it's tough. If you're the front office, it's tough to figure out what to do with him.
Yeah. It's, you're paying him $16 million a year.
Yeah.
To bring him in for low leverage. So that's if Kyle doesn't really strike me as the type of person that would be a prima donna type of person and just be like, I'm not going to do that. It'd be really weird if he was, but I think he would accept at this point. I think he would accept any role that they give him. And
I thought of something else it's creative, but it's also really mean, but maybe it works, would be if they did DFA him. Mm-hmm. I could see him, either he accepts an outright assignment to Iowa. They somehow work out the contract logistics to keep paying him, would be my guess, or if they did DFA him, if you think about it, whoever claims him off waivers would owe the rest of his salary. So they'd probably owe him, let's just say $8 million, right? No one's going to want to pay him $8 million to be a really unstable part of their rotation. And like you said, low leverage. You don't want to pay someone a lot of money to be low leverage. So I would guess he might go unclaimed. Maybe someone would claim him. I don't know. You don't want to lose him for nothing. But if he did go unclaimed, then obviously he gets outrighted to AAA, or maybe they agree on him going to Iowa, and then he's off the 40-man roster. And then you can bring him up if he shows that he's got it back. Look at CJ Edwards, who's been at Iowa almost all year. He hasn't been brought up, and he has actually good numbers for the most part. Peripherals are okay, but he could have come up at any point, and they've just continued to try to use their flexibility and not bring him up. There's something to be had with the depth there at Iowa. They probably are waiting for you to show you what they want. With Lovelady, with Colton Brewer, they saw what they liked to a certain extent with strikeouts or whiffs, something like to that nature. Maybe they wait for Hendricks to show that again at Iowa, and that would make sense to me, but I'm not running the front office, so I think they'll keep him on at least for another month. I think the real pushing point will be guys like Julian Merriweather coming off the 60-day injured list, and then also Cade Horton needing a 40-man roster spot sometime in June or July. I imagine there are going to be calls for Hendricks' head. If he goes out there and continues, I was actually embarrassed to, I didn't even really put his full line on there. I just know he gave up 8 runs.
I was embarrassed to type it out in front of my own eyes.
My fingers were cramping. So we wanted to recap the Pirates series for those of you who are tuning in and were like, why are they now only 4 games over 500? We had an off day. We lost the series 1-3 at Wrigley. So I was hoping, I know last time we talked about hoping for a split or possibly a series win. The main headline of this series was the offense looking terrible, and then just not really getting your starters to have good outings. So early in the season, that was a big strength, but Shota Imanaga obviously looked good. This series, the Cubs had 18 hits and 2.5 runs per game, so that will not get it done. So the most recent game, they lost 2-3. We did see a bounce back outing for Jameson Taillon. Good to see him take some lumps and then come back and at least pitch okay. He had inherited runners that scored from Hayden Wesneski. But other than that, in terms of non-inherited runners, just their own work, the bullpen went 4 and a third and gave up 0 earned runs. Jameson gave up, 3 runs, almost pitched about 5 innings. You'll take that from him every day, especially compared to what Hendricks does. And the offense got like a triple and a double. And that was their only hits, actually. So, I mean, shoot, you could almost win a game if your only hits are extra base hits. They got sack flies, but only 2 hits that game. So you start to really wonder. Game 3, the 1-0 win, just 5 hits. Obviously, Bellinger gets the double, and Morel brings him home, play at the plate. That was Imanaga's start, in which he went 7 innings, no earned runs, 7 Ks, 4 hits, and 1 walk, and Leiter Neris came in to also pitch shutout ball. So that was a ridiculously good pitching performance, and just we're going to be a broken record here. But the second game of the series, they lost 3-9. It was Hendricks versus Skenes, which we kind of had a feeling we were going to lose that one. Hendricks gave up like 8 runs and 72 hits, it looks like. The Cubs only had 4 hits, and Amaya hit a home run, so that's kind of nice to see him do that. But hence our discussion of Kyle Hendricks was this game. Paul Skenes looked incredible. I think he struck out the first like 7 or 8 or maybe 6 guys he faced.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of these guys like Paul Skenes and Jared Jones, who pitched the first 2 games of the series?
I think he's really impressive. It's just insane. The velocity, the pitch mix. I mean, he's got some balls. I tell you that right now. They're slapping high fives and stuff like that. He's a rookie. Rowdy Tellez was going to give him a high five, and he just kind of went, moved his hand away. Like, I'm not slapping your hand.
That's funny.
I just kind of saw that online. I was like, oh wow, okay, he's cocky. No.
Yeah, I mean, Rowdy Tellez for the Pirates versus Paul Skenes. I think they'd probably rather go, coddle Skenes a little bit. Like,
right.
Rowdy's going to be here for a year. So that's funny that he did that.
He's still a teammate, but yeah, you got a good point. I mean, it's Paul Skenes obviously has a complex of some kind, but you kind of wonder with guys like this. He's been compared to Strasburg. He's got great velocity. He can throw really hard, but another guy, Jacob deGrom, throws really hard as well. Great pitcher, but he's been injured too. So you got to look at these guys that are just throwing gas. You kind of wonder about their careers and if their arms are going to hold up
right
over the course of maybe 13 or 14 year career.
Yeah,
Strasburg totally is not pitching, right? He's not in the.
He's been away from baseball for like 3 years. It's insane. I can't believe that they owe him all that money still. I mean,
the Pirates rotation is, Zach, to answer your question, just is great. I mean, they're set up for the future. It's from top to, not really top to bottom, but their top 3 are pretty much set, right? You got Keller, Mitch Keller, and then.
Yeah, I was going to say, we missed the Mitch Keller thing, who used to be their ace. Jared Jones came out of nowhere for me. I didn't know about him last year. This year, he came up out of nowhere. He's also touching triple digits,
right,
and striking out a ton of pitchers. No, ton of hitters. He's
not anymore.
That would be fun to have a whole lineup.
Just pitchers.
I mean, if you got Nick Madrigal and Miles Mastrobuoni, which we'll get into, you're 6 and 7, you're 7 and 8. You're facing a few pitchers in that lineup. In terms of automatic outs, I mean, Mastro's got a 370 OPS. But, yeah, I mean, this is a really good rotation. The Cubs didn't do anything against Bailey Falter, which that's their own fault, no pun intended. But he's not like a shutdown pitcher, and yet he also pitched well. So, yeah, they have a really good future, right? I mean, it's kind of scary to look at that team and be like, that's not even the team to worry about in the NL Central, and yet look at their pitching.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're definitely set up as far as the future goes for their pitching, and I'm sure they have some hitting prospects as well.
Yeah,
but we don't know very very much about the Pirates farm system or anything. But yeah, they look great. Sometimes as a baseball fan, you can appreciate it a little bit, and just like I'm sure people appreciated when Kerry Wood struck out 20 people, 20 batters. It's like,
yeah,
you recognize greatness when you see it, and so hats off to him. And like I said, hopefully he can continue his career and throwing straight gas. I think he threw topped out at 101 or something.
I think so. Yeah, very reminiscent of Strasburg. He did kind of the same thing when he came up, and hopefully Skenes, can stay healthy. The other Pirates fireball thrower, starting pitcher Jared Jones, shut the Cubs down pretty well in Game 1. The Cubs lost 5-4. They're chasing their tail a little bit to try and come back the whole game. I know Justin Steele did not pitch well, but we will get to see him in this Braves series. Hopefully, he can really start to recover a little bit, and I'm excited to see him get back to his ace form, because with the way Imanaga's pitching, if you can get Steele back to what we know he can do, and the way Assad is pitching, and then Tyone has kept it pretty solid, the Cubs are just waiting for Jordan Wicks, and then really that's a solid rotation. And there's still a lot of injuries to recover from, right? So if they can start to get these pieces back in order a little bit, it is a good team, honestly. I think they're better than, just over 500. Losing to the Pirates sucks, but, apparently Steele doesn't pitch well against the Pirates. I don't know if that's just like a career-long statistic, but it's something that was brought up, and the Pirates do well against left-handed pitching. Aside from Imanaga, who's a freak, he's actually in it's early, obviously, but he's in the Cy Young conversation already. He's got like a 0.8 ERA, just ridiculous. I think his WHIP is about the same as the ERA, which is, that's just incredible. When your WHIP is higher than your ERA, even that's masterclass. So
yeah,
the Cubs got a bargain with him, I would say.
But at least so far,
In terms of the hitting, though, I will say I think they need to figure some of this stuff out, right? So Dansby being back, Nico being back, those will help. And then I wish there was a way for Brennan Davis to get in the lineup, because he hit 7 homers in 8 games. Truly a ridiculous stretch for him to come back like that. It's fun to see, right? But I don't know where there is a spot. They just sent PCA down. Unless Happ were to get injured, maybe Davis is the first guy up to see what he's got. I don't know. Don't know what they're waiting for.
I think maybe another injury to happen. Greg Huss was talking about this. I was listening to his latest podcast, and it's kind of where do you where can you fit him in? And barring another injury, which seems like it's possible. It's feels like it's at least one every other day or so, if not every day. So I mean, I think they could also be looking at maybe a slightly larger sample size than, obviously this hot streak is great. So you want to see him stay healthy, and you want to maybe get at least, 5 to 10 more games under his belt before they just start calling him up for, because they did the same thing for, Canario. They're talking about this as well on the Cubs on Deck podcast, was they did that with Canario, and then, Ross just sat him on the bench and he didn't play him.
Yeah. Geez. Yeah. I mean, and that started to happen with PCA. He did get used a little bit, but his usage rate was starting to get lower as Happ the whole outfield finally is healthy. Yeah. Canario didn't play. I'm sure that'll happen with Vasquez a little bit. You're going to see Vasquez sparingly, maybe in a sort of a defensive role late game, or maybe in a pinch hit opportunity. I don't know, but it does suck to see these guys come up, get what looks like a chance, and then ride the bench, right? The bench is for guys like Madrigal. Even then, I still feel like they should have called up Vasquez earlier, and possibly going forward, they need to cut their ties with some of these guys who can't even hold their own when they're playing for 4 or 5 games. I mean, Mastro and Madrigal they don't have power. Madrigal has not been known to have speed, and he's got okay defense at third, and he's not a good not a great defensive second baseman. It was just bad timing. Right? Dansby going down the same time as Nico, and then Happ has struggled with his offense. So you're seeing 3, 4 Bush, 3, 4, 5 guys slumping all at the same time again. Yeah. So they need to fix that. The offense nothing needs to really change, just some philosophy needs to get instilled. They need to figure out, and they need to slug a little bit more. I mean, it feels like every time there's a home run, it's a big deal. It used to just hit home runs. Now it's every other
Back
game.
In my day.
I mean, they only got a couple home runs this series. What are we doing, guys? We're hitting 2 home runs in 4 games against And the pitching on this Pirates club is good. They
Right.
did play the Braves. They're going to face Morton, who they did well against, but then Fried. So, and this TBD guy for the Braves.
Yeah.
But they should
Too
be
bad.
able to hit a home run against what could be like a AAA type pitcher.
Right.
They should. And they have good hitters healthy now. They're just not hitting. And
Yeah.
it's tough. It's tough.
It is tough. It's tough to watch. They have a bunch of guys right now that could maybe hit like, 1 through 3, but they need like sluggers. They need those big time bats. I mean, they got to come from somewhere. Bush has really tapered off. Like you said, Happ he hit 1 home run the other day. It's like when they homer, it's like it's for usually in a losing cause, right? Like Amaya homered. It's like, great, okay, he's not going to homer for like another 40 at bats at least, maybe more. So I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's another point. The catching, the defense at catching has been okay, and they're not throwing guys out,
right.
and
it's a lot
they're not hitting. None of these guys are, neither Gomes nor Amaya are hitting at all.
It's a lot of defensive indifference too. It's like they're not even making a throw. Well, I think it's just because they're getting such a big jump, and they're a lot of the starting pitching is just not checking them down. Not checking them down. We're not in football here. Checking over to see the runner, to just peek at the runner and just keep them honest, like throw over every now and then. But I mean, when they get a huge jump, I mean, and they're Gomes has a decent arm, but it's not he threw some guys out last year, but just this year he's you got to make up for it. If you're not amazing defensively, you got to hit every now and then. So yeah.
So before we head out of here, just a quick update that the next series, the Cubs are playing the Braves at home for 3 games, and then they head out to St. Louis. So the probables are Charlie Morton versus Javier Assad, Max Fried versus Justin Steele, and to be determined versus TBD, which we talked about would be probably Wisniewski or Brown, or combo of those guys. And Locked On Cubs hosts believe that it could be someone like a quad A type, AAA type pitcher from the Braves, as Reynaldo Lopez and Chris Sale pitched in a doubleheader on Monday. So we missed them, which is just great.
Yeah.
And obviously hitters to watch. It's always going to be guys like Acuna, Olsen, Albies, and Ozuna. And depending on, I think Murphy is actually returning. Good timing for us.
They're still without Riley too, Austin Riley. So that's
good. I don't think he'll play in this series, but I'm not sure how far away he is. I mean, maybe he sneaks into the end of the series. I'm not sure. Or maybe he's on the injury list. I haven't caught up with that. And our keys to victory, pretty much just be able to beat Charlie Morton and accept the loss against Max Fried. And get your guys healthy. So Horner and Swanson should be healthy. And then obviously the bullpen has done well recently. So can they keep it up would be my biggest thing. And we need Justin Steele. We need the Justin Steele of old, right? If he can hang in there with Max Fried, that'll show me that, he's ready to contribute again.
Yeah, he's really one to watch. Just real quick, I was going to say, when I was kind of going through the script, thinking about Justin Steele, he can't be tipping his pitches. So hopefully they've if that's what it was, if he was tipping his pitches, and hopefully he's figured that out and kind of how to hide it a little bit better. I think this next game will be really interesting to see how he rebounds. I hope he does, because we really do need him, especially since Assad and Imanaga are just absolutely shoving right now. So to have him back to where he was would be huge for us.
Yeah, if you can get multiple guys in your 3-4 guys in your rotation pitching well, that leads to those winning streaks, especially when your bullpen is starting to, you can get them to stabilize like they've been recently.
Yes. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us here on the Brotherly Cubs podcast. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications, or join the conversation with us on Twitter at Brotherly Cubs or Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I'm your big brother, John.
And I'm your little brother, Zach.
We will see you next week as we recap the series with the Braves. Until next time, thanks for tuning in to the pod, and we will catch you later. Peace.
Listen to this crowd.